Tycho. What a big bird you are. Hey, flockers, we're live with Tycho. Bok bok to every birdie joining us. Hi, Anne. Yeah, we just finished a stream with Max, and now Tycho gets a bit of a turn. We had some fun with Max. Max wanted to eat some snacks. He wanted to play catch. What else did your brother want to do? He wanted to play with some stacking cups, had some music, and we talked a lot about feathers. So we actually had a lot of fun. So let's start this stream by talking a little bit about feathers. Tycho may be a little bit upset, but he's back to me right now. Do you notice anything about some of the feathers on his back? He's got a little bit of red factor happening in some of his bigger feathers, just heading down towards the wings and the tail. Yeah, so you just see that little hint of red. Every so often he gets one or two feathers with a little bit of red, which is kind of special. Yes, Tycho, I know. But Tycho definitely has a very different feather structure than Max does. Tycho is very, very wiry. Now, as I put Max back over to entertain himself for a little while, I noticed I forgot to talk about one type of feather in our previous stream, and I'll just indulge and talk about it for a minute. This one is the other type of feather that you see a lot of, and this is just a bit of down. It's super, super fluffy. It's the kind that just sort of wafts in the air. Let's see if we can get it to waft in the air. You know, it's really built to insulate, and you know, basically that's one of Max's downy feathers. So you do have a lot of those. Would you like a piece of down, honey? Like some down? Oops. Don't want the down? What I'm going to grab a feather to deliver the feather. Yeah. Some down. You got a fluffy beard. Got a fluffy beard. There we go. Are you bothered by that, bud? You're not bothered at all, are you? Just gonna fold this over. Of course, you had to go poop too. You saw your brother went poop. Okay, thank you. You got a feather in your beak. How dare I do that, huh? It's like one of your brother's feathers? Bring it. Feathers as big as you are. Yeah. So one note I'll make is Tycho and Max live together. I would never do this with a feather from outside of the house. I mean, especially with avian flu, that would be a really bad idea. But, you know, what do you think, Teeks? Yeah, your brother's feather. What are you doing? What are you doing, huh? I know. Oh boy. I finished the stream and I've got bees everywhere. Would you like a monkey? Monkey? You got something stuck to your beak. Oh, you don't want a monkey, huh? I said you didn't want a monkey. There's a monkey. No monkeys. Gonna play drop? Monkey. Monkey. How about a bagel? Pretty bagel. No No birdie bagels today? No birdie bagels, no monkeys. Okay, how about one of Tycho's favorite addictions is mahogany pods. It's mahogany pod. You can eat it there if you like. You can chew on it. Oh, I know, Tycho. Life is so tough. So tough when you are a gray bird. Head scratchy? Scratch, scratch? Notice when I offer him a scritch, he puts his head down and lifts his feathers a little bit. That's his invitation that he wants a scritchy. He's saying, yeah, come on over. But with Tycho, everything is consent-based. He knows exactly what he wants and when he wants it. And he enforces that, but he very much is consent-based. You know, I don't do anything if he does not want to do it. I don't force him to do anything. Usually he wants to do things. Like even if I ask if he wants to go back to his CAGE, he knows what that is. Hasn't figured out how it's spelled yet. But, you know, he'll decide if he's ready or not, or if he wants a few more minutes. But he's just a little adult compared to Max. Yeah. You're very patient, Tycho. Yeah. Oh, yeah, big scritchy. So I'm not going to pick up the phone when I do this because Tycho does not like phones especially. He does not like cameras. You know, but here I'm just gently rubbing the feathers the wrong way. Just rubbing his head. He's enjoying that. I can go in, give a little bit of a rub on the eye ridge, just skin there. You'll notice as I do this, he closes his eye. He knows he can trust me. He feels where my hand is. I'm centered sort of on the back of the skull a little bit as I do this. So I know exactly where I'm at. Yes, I have accidentally touched his eye before. He closes his eye pretty quickly when he sees that happening. Yeah. I just pay a bit of attention. Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, he really likes having his head scratched because that's something he can't really reach himself except with the claw. And it's something, you know, a flock member would do for him. He's very adamant he can preen the rest of his body by himself. Oh yeah, or Tycho. Yeah, typical parent. I don't even know the name of my kids. Yeah, Tycho. Yeah, was that good? Is that good? Yeah, those little feathers just gonna roll back. And these ones are just super, super tiny. Compared to Max's head feathers that are the size of my thumbnail for the small ones. You know, Tycho's just got these little tiny, super fine feathers. Yeah. But Tycho's feathers are quite different in character than Max. Tycho's feathers feel almost a bit wiry. They feel more like Amazon or African Grey. They've got very wiry feathers. Cockatoos tend to have softer feathers. Flight feathers are, of course, going to be very, very structured, but the body feathers are very different between the two. Yeah. Well, yeah. Is that good? Oh, your feathers are so pretty, Tycho. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, okay, I'm going to pick up the phone now just so I can read a few comments, and we'll come in a little closer. Oh yeah, and I do tend to hold on to some feathers. If you like, I can bring a few, see what I've got and see if I can bring a few over to just talk about feather structure. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got a sticky beak right now. Yeah. Yeah, as Connie says, Greys have a lot of tiny small head feathers. Vasco's in the middle of a molt right now, but yeah, you can see just how tiny those little tiny feathers are. You know, very, very fine. Other thing, if you look close on his face, I don't know if you can see that or not, but you see some that look almost like hairs. Like if you look at the top of his beak and then just sort of go to the top of the head, a little bit sort of sticking out, it's almost like he's got a whole bunch of hairs. He's got eyelashes. They're white, so they're hard to see. But I mean, those are all feathers. It's not hair, but it's all feathers, just different structures of feather. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Tycho is the demolition and deep thinker. Yeah, he likes to demolish squash. He's very thoughtful, very curious, but super wary. Oh. Tango says, if them were humans, Max would have left home to join the circus at 16 and Tico would stay home with mom to do the shopping and the ironing. Well, close, Tango, but not quite. Max would be at the concerts and the wild parties, and Tico would be at home chewing on a good book. I mean, reading a good book. Oh yeah, I think we do have some eggies on the beak. It's a little bit sticky. You also had some orange earlier, didn't you? Yesterday, I've got an orange on the go for the flock right now, and they get a slice of it and peel an orange, and they can just juice it themselves. And Tico sometimes likes to throw food around a few times before he eats it. He'll pick it up, toss it to the bottom of the cage, wing it across the cage a few times. I think it's almost I claim this and I'm the king of this. Well, he was very upset. His orange flew right through the bars of the cage because it was just a slice. And I walked in. Max was kind of upset too because he saw an orange he couldn't reach. It's sitting on the floor. I mean, sticky orange on the floor is not what I wanted. And Tico's looking at me as if to say it was all my fault. Sometimes it can touch his beak, Connie. It just depends on his mood. I'm probably not going to do that with the camera. Hello, Kathleen from Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, every bird is very, very different. Yeah. So I'm going to go grab a few feathers and I'll be back in a minute. So I'm going to put this down. Okay, Teeks. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Let's see, what do we got here? Another one. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna talk about feathers, Tico. That'll be fun. Feathers. So, as I said, everybody's going through a molt right now. This one's a typical wing feather from an African gray. It's, you can see it's a lot smaller than Max's feathers. It's very, very wiry. Like, it does not have a lot of give to it. In comparison, a cockatoo wing feather, you've got a little bit more give, but obviously like just a huge, huge difference in size. But, your cockatoo wing feather is going to bend a lot easier than the gray. But that one yours? Yeah. That was just a typical feather. Different feathers have slightly different shapes too. This one's, do you want to turn around, honey? No, you don't want to turn around. This one's probably one of the ones, it's a lot softer than the wing feather. It's still from the wing area, but a little closer into the tail. So, it's basically just all of the feathers make up different setup. And these would be from two different sides of the bird. You can see that there's sort of a front and a back to them, and they're pointing different ways. Yeah. We've got tail feathers. Tail feathers are always kind of fun. Now, African grays have red tails, so that one's a tail feather. And you'll notice it's got a little bit of a curve to it. So instead of going straight up and down, it actually curves away a little bit. So that would probably, that side's up, that side's down, but that one would probably be from the left side of his tail. But, that one's also really, really wiry, but you can really see that pretty, pretty red shade. Yeah. But I mean, African grays, you've got the gray, you've got the red, And it's a bit of a muted red, but just, so showy, so colorful. Other kind of feathers that you've got with the African grays are body feathers. Now this one's a bigger one, but these ones are a little bit softer. It just covers his body. It's the kind of feather. Oops, that one's a big one. I know, hun, but it would cover something like here. This one's probably from underneath the wing. You've got a bit of down on the bottom of it, so you've got some of the fluffy down, and then you've got not even sure if I'm focusing on that feather. Yeah, there we go. We sort of keep focusing and off focusing, but you've got a little bit of down at the bottom, then the feather itself, and they are very curved. It just follows the curve of the bird. But Tycho's feathers are very, may I? Okay, very wiry compared to Max. But yeah, these ones just super tiny right on the head. Yeah, maybe a little larger as they go down. But similar with Max, they come in a bit of a feather sheath. Yeah, big mold, Tycho. Yeah. Tycho loves having his ear rubbed. There we go. Yeah, there we go, right down to the beak. I'm not going to scrape at his beak right now because he might get upset, but there you go, Connie. Yes, you can touch Tycho's beak. You just have to respect it, right, Tycho? Got something stuck to your beak. Would you like a napkin to wipe your beak with? How about we give you a napkin? Napkin to wipe your beak? There you go. Oh, you think it's clean enough? It's sticky. You were eating something sticky. Here. You give it a scrub. Uh-oh, I'm getting a bit of stink eye. Okay, Tycho, I'm going to turn my back and I'm going to get busy. I'm just going to wash my hands, okay? Oh, yeah. Oh. All right. I don't know what you want, Tycho. Oh yeah, I'm getting stink eye right now. It happens. It's the way of a bird. Okay. How about I walk out of the room and I leave you alone for a few minutes? I'll talk from out here and I'll just talk a little louder. I'll see what we've got on comments. Yeah, Tycho sometimes likes a bit of privacy. There we go. Yeah, I'm glad you like the info on the feathers. Sometimes it's fun to talk about. Hi, Einstein. Glad that you're joining us. Yeah. Our friend Einstein, actually, let's talk about Einstein for a minute. If you've been watching him, you'll know that he's started doing something called feather plucking. And I know Marcia gets a lot of comments about it. Feather plucking is not related to molting. It's not related to the natural growth of feathers at all. It's when a bird basically gets bored and just starts picking his own feathers out. Sometimes it can become habit forming because just like humans, you do something, you get a bit of adrenaline, you get a bit of a reaction. Hey, this is kind of fun, I'm bored, let's do this. So it can happen from there. But there can also be medical reasons for it. So if your bird ever starts plucking, even if it's just a few feathers, go to the vet, get the vet to check them out and see if there's any medical reason for it. Sometimes it's behavioral, sometimes it's medical. Some birds will pluck because they're in a bad situation. Other birds, such as Einstein, I mean, he has the best family he could ever wish for, the best situation. He's in excellent health. Like there's really no reason for it, but it's something he does at night. He just has decided that he'd like to go topless. That's okay. I mean, my friend Lori also has some naked birds. Usually, what happens is if you end up with a naked bird, people decide that, well, I don't want to adopt. Like if somebody's looking to rehome a bird, it can be very hard to rehome a bird that is plucking because people look and say that bird's not perfect, but they're all very special in their own way. My friend Lori, the reason she has so many naked birds is she does a lot of fostering for our local parrot club and our local humane society. And so she frequently ends up with the naked birds, and her heart's so big, she just wants to give them all a perfect home. So I just figured since I've been talking about feathers, I'd just touch on that. But, sometimes birds just pluck and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But if you do notice it starting, first thing to do is get to a vet and check it out. Second thing to do, maybe talk to an animal behavioralist and see if there's something you can do. Is it maybe boredom? Is it reaction to something the bird doesn't like? And just see where it goes, and know that it's okay. It's not a huge problem most of the time. Now, one thing some people who've been following the channel for a while know is my first birds were a pair of little lovebirds. This is before Tycho. And I had two lovebirds, and one of them was plucking underneath her wings. And I mean, she was actually plucking quite badly. She ended up with a bit of a scab. She pulled the scab off. This is not a good thing. Birds don't have a lot of blood and can bleed to death very easily. But, and I was trying my best. I mean, this is 26 years ago, and you didn't have as much information as you do today. So I mean, I'm not sure what the cause of that was, what I could have done differently. But one day Cleo reached underneath her wing, was sitting on my shoulder and was preening, and went after a scab that she had underneath her wing, pulled off that scab, and well, that scab was connected to something, and suddenly I had a bird who had a bleeding emergency. So I did what any good bird parent would do, grabbed the bird, tried to stop the bleeding. At the time, I think I was trying to use cornstarch or flour to stifle the bleeding. That's some pressure, and I called the vet and I said, I've got an emergency, I'm coming in. And I drove a Standard at the time, so holding a bird while driving was going to be a bit difficult. So took the wing, packed with as much as I could, wrapped up Cleo like a little burrito, and she was fine by this. Like, she was a little bit scared. Her mate was very scared. He got tossed in the cage, and the vet knew I was coming. I grabbed myself a shoebox so I had somewhere to put the bird while I was driving. And I mean, a matter of minutes, she just passed away right there in my hand as I was racing out the door. And it was pretty traumatic. So we ended up with a single lovebird for a while. Then we decided we wanted another bird, and that's how Tycho joined our flock. So Tycho grew up with a lovebird and thought that he actually thought this little tiny lovebird was bigger than him. Baby Tycho, 6-month-old Tycho, would call for help when the lovebird got into Tycho's cage. Tycho didn't understand that he was 20 times the size of the lovebird. He didn't understand that the lovebird with the big lovebird attitude really didn't have an edge, but it's all attitude with those birds. But to this day, like if he hears a lovebird on a video or something, he will call out in lovebird. He honestly, for many years, that's how he would react when he saw other birds. Many years ago, we used to take him occasionally to the local parrot club when they had in-person meetings, and that's Calgary Parrot Club. But we did go there a few times with Tycho, and Tycho would look around, see some other birds, and the first thing he would do is he would try to speak lovebird to them. Quite adorable, because that's what he grew up with. But yeah, so feather picking can be a major problem, but there's a few things you can do, but sometimes it's just something you have to accept. We're very, very fortunate that we don't have pluckers here. Although one thing you'll notice about Max, and this is something that's been the case for 17 years, it's not gotten worse, it's not gotten better. Max likes to wear short pants. He does not like feathers growing at the bottom near his feet. So he takes off the bottom row of feathers by his feet, and he's been doing that for 17 years. And I don't know, probably a lot longer. So, it's just part and parcel of Max. So Sherry, I'm just looking at comments. Sherry says that she's looking to adopt another bird. Sherry, right now, there are a lot of birds out there who are looking for new homes. It's actually quite heartbreaking in Calgary, and Calgary's not alone. What we saw is during the pandemic, people were home a lot, they were bored, they didn't know what to do. They thought, oh, let's get a bird, this will be fun. So they went to a pet store, they bought a baby bird. There was a boom. There was a huge boom in adoption of cats and dogs and rabbits and birds. And unfortunately, it was a very passing phase. You're seeing a lot more cats and dogs and rabbits out for adoption that are a few years old, but you're seeing a lot of birds as well. And part of it is people did not know what they were getting into when they adopted a bird. And now all of the shelters are full. The parrot clubs, Mika's, Greyhaven, all of those rescues are chock full of birds. But one thing that often happens is somebody says, I want a bird, but I want a baby. And they adopt that baby bird. 2 years later, they decide that their lifestyles changed a little bit. Maybe they weren't ready for the mess or the noise or how much attention that's needed. Even a small bird can take a lot of attention. And then that bird gets put up for rehoming. And the local Calgary parrot Facebook page is chock full of birds right now looking for homes. 8 months old, 9 months old, 2 years old. A lot of them are very young. And what's in common is they were all pandemic adoptions or purchases. And people are saying, hey, we need to rehome the bird now. My friend Lori does a lot of fostering for both the Parrot Club and the Humane Society, and they're having a hard time finding places to put the birds, much less find them homes. So if you are looking for a bird, I'm going to say this: adopt, don't shop. The birds that are in the rescues, they really, really need you. They need a home. They've already been bred, they've already been sold, and if you're buying a new bird, a baby bird, you're really contributing to the breeding problem and the problem of too many birds without homes. If you're buying a new bird, a baby bird, it's the breeders, basically it becomes that money for the breeders for some of the parrot shops. But there's so many wonderful birds out there who need homes, and through no fault of their own. Now, people will say, but I want a baby, they'll bond with me better. Not necessarily. What happens is that baby bird, when they turn a couple of years old, they hit the terrible 2s. And that's usually when they start to act out, then followed by the terrible 3s and the terrible 4s, just like a little kid. And that sweet, sweet baby bird may not be as sweet anymore. And of course, you're getting, if you adopt, you might be looking at an older bird and there might be a few behavioral problems. Often that bird is just looking for a home. Often that bird is just trying to test and trying to figure things out. When I met Max, he was living in a basement. He was 10 years old. He'd been adopted as a baby. I've got a full video on this. They had the best of intentions. They thought they were going to be wonderful bird parents. And then they had kids and dogs and lives changed. And guess what? They didn't have as much time for Max, and Max is super social. He had a problem with this, so he started acting out. And that became a cycle. He'd act out, they'd yell at him, they'd close him in the cage, they'd put him in the basement. He was upset, he'd act out a bit more. Them yelling at him was the only attention he got, which is why he's so good at tantrums. But I mean, it just became that cycle for him. When I met Max, he'd actually just attacked his former owner badly. I mean, she had some really, really nasty bites on her arm. Like, he basically just went to town on her. He liked men, hated women. So I came along and I agreed to foster him basically on an emergency basis, like just a respite for a week, 2 weeks on the outside. So Max came over to stay with me for a couple of weeks. The bird, who screamed 24 hours a day and couldn't be handled at all, was staying with me for a couple of weeks. And he was pretty mad at the world. And he didn't see any reason to change being mad at the world. You know, after all, I was just this other female, and how dare I? Well, obviously they asked me to find him a new home. He decided he didn't want a new home, so I taught him some manners, and it's just really been, what the biggest thing with Max is just consistency. I'm not home 24 hours a day. Well, at least pre-pandemic I wasn't. I don't, I work. I may not be the best bird owner for that, because I don't have, I can't spend as much time with the birds. But what I do, I encourage independent play. I give them lots of enrichment opportunities. And when I engage with them, I really engage with them. I give them some of that meaningful interaction. When I'm paying attention to the bird, I'm paying attention to the bird, not the phone. I'm not watching TV at the same time. I'm letting that bird know that he matters. And that's really important for Max. Max was also very food insecure, so that probably added to things. But even now, I mean, Max is 27 years old. He's been with me for 17 years. But when I met him, I didn't think I would ever be able to handle him. That's obviously changed a lot. If you follow the channel, he'll go and, he'll willingly hop into a harness, or, hey, go for walks with me. I can trust him with others. He is such a sweetheart. But he just wants to be part of a flock and know that he belongs and know that he matters. So a lot of people would look at him and say, oh, he's a problem bird. You'll never be able to handle him. And I mean, I didn't even know what I was doing. But it was just the question of being there, being consistent. Max decided, you know what? Women are not so bad. When he gets tired, if he's interacting with others, he will choose men over women all the time, especially when he's tired, but he'll always choose me. And he basically has decided that despite being female, I'm okay. He's adopted me. But I think part of the bond that I have with Max is just because he's had some rough experiences, and when he came to me, he discovered that he had a forever home. So when people say adopting a bird that's been formerly owned, they might have some bad habits. Absolutely. Even if you get a baby bird, you could teach them some bad habits yourself without realizing you're doing so. But the older birds that need to be adopted, they're looking for homes. Super, super rewarding. So I always say adopt, don't shop. There are so many birds out there. Oh, Tycho, you're taking a bit of a nap. I saw that long blink. I know. Aww. Yeah, but honestly, I think the bird who you're adopting from a shelter or something, you're probably going to be able to build just as strong of relationship with them. And more to the point, that bird has history, you've got a story, and that you're definitely doing the good thing. My friend Lori, she owns a number of birds. She also does a lot of fostering for the local humane society. and the local parrot club, where basically she has a bird that stays with her for, maybe weeks or months at a time, because it's better for the bird to be in a home environment than in a shelter environment. And with the parrot club, they basically don't have a facility, so it's just various homes that the birds board in until a good home is found for them. But she trains them, she bonds with them, she gets them onto healthy diets, she gives them attention, and they thrive. They really, really do. So even the birds that you say, oh, that bird can't be handled, well, you know what? When you bring them home, you might not be able to handle them. But that can change, and you just have to be patient, you have to be willing to work with them. And I mean, I always hold Max up as the example that, you know, no bird is inherently bad. No bird is inherently evil. Max just learned a bunch of bad habits when he was young. Have I been bit by Max? Oh, yeah, I have. Did it hurt? Oh, yeah, it hurt. I mean, Max has a pretty impressive beak. But I know Max. I'm not worried that he's going to bite me because I've been with him long enough. I read his body language. And if I get bitten, it's my own fault. Oh, you're being noisy, Max. Would you like another carrot? Shush. Max, can you be quiet? Can you be quiet? Where you go, bud? You want that? Okay, I'll get you a carrot then. There you go. Yeah, is that good? Yeah, Max does not get something just because he throws a tantrum. He was actually looking at his food bowl and deciding what was empty. So he was actually telling me that there was a problem. But, he knows if he calms down, he'll get what he wants. The being quiet is what gets rewarded, not the tantrum. Oh yeah, Sherry, any bird would be lucky to have you as a forever home, I'm sure. As Sue says, love and patience works absolute wonders. But you also meet the bird where they're willing to be met. I mean, Tycho is an African gray. African grays have very different personalities than cockatoos. I mean, as we said before, Tycho would be sitting in the library eating a book or reading a book, and Max would be out at the wild, wild party, seeing as many people as he could. He's the extrovert, Tycho's the introvert. Very different personalities. Tycho wants things on his own terms, and he interacts with me very differently than Max. But I just meet them where they want to be met. It's just like having children with different personalities. If I expected Tycho to be just like Max, I'd be disappointed. If I expected Tycho to be like our friend Einstein, who's also an African gray, who talks a lot, I'd be very disappointed. But I don't put any preconceptions. Some birds talk, some birds don't. Tycho talks when he has something specific to say. And he needs to be in the mood, and he needs to have something he wants to communicate. And if he chooses to talk, that's up to him. It's not a condition of me putting up with him. It's not a condition of him living here. I mean, he's a bird. He has the right to determine how he wants to interact and what he wants to do. And I mean, sometimes he gets, wants to make a bit of noise, wants to get a little chatty. One of his favorites is just to do this really soft, hi. Can you say, hi? Yeah, not in the mood to say hi right now, but it's a bit of a greeting. He'll say whisper, and he says it in a stage whisper if he decides either myself or Max are getting too noisy. Oh, little dance. Yeah. You want to dance? Oh, no, you don't want to dance. Sometimes you like when I snap my fingers. No, Tycho does not want to. Yeah, so I mean, every bird is going to be very, very different. Amazons can be wonderful too. Max, what do you have to play with right now? Do you need some new blocks? Do you need a block? Can you be quiet for a block? I got a box of blocks. Are you being quiet? Oh, Maxwell, that's right. Here you go. Want a couple of blocks to choo-choos? They're all blue. Is that okay? You want some blue blocks? Yeah, those are fun to chew on. Okay. Yep, block chewing time for Max. Usually after a stream, I give him some fresh blocks to chew on, and apparently I broke that. But they have their own ideas, what they want to do, when they want to do it. And the most successful relationship you're going to have with your bird is when it is consent-based. Absolutely. If Tycho's bleeding and I have to deal with the blood feather or something, it's not going to be consent-based. I'm going to do what needs to be done. But it's no different than with a young child. I mean, you can give a young child a bit of autonomy and some choice without being the person who always tells them what to do. I mean, Tycho is 26 years old. He's got his own ideas what he wants to do. So it's always consent-based. Like when I ask him, would you like to come out of the cage? If he decides, actually, no, I'm busy playing in here, go away, I go away. Unless there's a pressing need for me to force the issue. But by not forcing the issue, I actually build a far better trust relationship. Max, sometimes he does not want to do something. He just says no, and he can be stubborn. And if I start fighting that no and imposing my will, it's going to be a case of an absolute fail. I'm not going to get anywhere with him. He's going to get mad at me, and we're going to break that trust. But with Max, he's got the attention span of a gnat. So if he doesn't not want to do something, I say, that's okay. I go do something else. I just walk around in a little circle, and I come back and I ask him, would you like to do this? And it's like, oh, yeah, that sounds like fun. Like, he honestly will forget that he said no if I give him a couple of minutes. Like, if I want to put him in the cage and he says nope, I mean, I'm going to break that trust relationship if I force him in. He's not going to like me. I'm probably going to get bit in the process. It's going to be ugly. So what I do is I say, well, that's okay. Would you like to look out the window then? We go walk over, we look out the window, and Max has something that he's doing. And then I walk back to the cage and say, hey, Max, would you like to go in? And he says, yes, let's go in, because he forgot that he didn't want to go in. He forgot that he'd said no. And then it's his own choice. And the trip over to the window and back cost me 30 seconds. If I tried to force him into the cage, I'd be bleeding, and 2 minutes later, I would still be trying to scrape him off my arm. So it's a little bit of misdirection. With Tycho, if he does not want to do something and says no, he can't be distracted as easily. But sometimes, like if I ask him if he wants to go to bed, he'll say no. But 5 minutes later, he's ready to. He just wants a little bit more time. Now, tornado warning goes off. We get an alert on the radio or something. At that point, the rule is we've got to deal with something. We don't get a lot of tornadoes here, but when we get a warning, I'm going to be ducking into the basement with the entire flock. Oh, big yawn. It's a big yawn. But, that's a case where it's not a case of, do you want to come out of the cage? You're going to come out of that cage if I have to peel every single claw off the back of that cage and climb in myself, because it's my responsibility to keep you safe. But that's not going to be my approach. Would you like to come out and play? I'm gonna climb into your cage and force you out. It's not going to happen that way. But scared bird, they want to stay in the cage. Last time I had a tornado warning, I mean, Max forgave me immediately. Once I pulled him out, he just wanted to cuddle because he was scared. Tycho sort of hopped out pretty quickly, tossed him in a carrier, and ran downstairs with him. he had that maturity to know something was wrong, and when I get urgent and alarms are going off, I probably have something to do with it. But I'll force Max if I have to, but most of the time it's fully consent based. It's only in an emergency I will decide that I'm going to force that will on him. So that's one thing about being really successful, being a bird owner, is recognizing that, like if you want a pet that behaves themselves and sits on a shelf, get a stuffed animal. The birds have their own attitudes, their own approaches to life. They've got their own ideas what they want to do and when they want to do it. And if Tycho decides he wants to chew on my wall, no, sorry, you can't do that. Same as, you'd say to a young baby who, a toddler who says, I want to touch the stove. No, I'm sorry, you can't do that. That's not acceptable, but here's something else you can do instead. Let's redirect that energy. You want to chew? I can accommodate that. I can give you something that you can chew without doing damage. It's really all you're doing with birds. They're not like a cat or a dog. You've got a roommate with feathers. Oh yeah. Well, one of the biggest things that happens with birds, especially larger birds, when they first come to a home, they get all of the attention. They get attention 24/7. It's the novelty thing, right? And then a few weeks later, they're not getting a lot of attention. They're being left in a cage. They're being ignored. Pandemic's been bad for pets that way because they've had lots of attention, and then all of a sudden now they're back in a cage and they have to entertain themselves. It's really upsetting. So it's really about consistency. While you might want to spend 24/7 with your brand new pet, take it slow and start as you intend to continue. When I was between jobs, Max, you're being very noisy. I know. When I was between jobs, even though I was at home looking for a job, what I would do is, we'd play in the morning, and I'd keep the Monday to Friday schedule, and I'd say, hey, you need to entertain yourself in your cage, because I knew I was going to find a job, and then the bird would be on their own. So it was a little different that I was home, but I just went to a different room, and we just went as I intended to continue, because I said, when I get a job, I'm going to be out of the house a lot, and I don't want suddenly having to readjust and get super upset. This way, it's just part of the pattern. I mean, the last 2 years I've been working from home, but when I go to work, I go upstairs. I've got an office upstairs. The birds get a bit more attention than if I were away, but they still entertain themselves. But that's part of being a successful bird owner. I don't promise the birds more than I can deliver. I don't set myself up for a lot of disappointment or failure. They know weekends I'm going to be around more. They get a bit more attention, but they've got the regular pattern of what to expect. So yeah. No, absolutely. Connie says they are like a toddler, and they absolutely are. Connie's bird, Vasco, absolute sweetie. He's an African gray who's a little bit older, and he's actually gone blind. So he's very dependent on Connie, very dependent on things not being moved around, but Connie knows how to handle him. Connie's that constant, and he needs to hear her voice. He needs to know that she's going to be around. He needs to know that there is that relationship. And she's very successful with him, and he's quite comfortable. He's safe, he's trusted. He knows what to expect. And that's really how to be successful with a parrot is, it's just the consistency. It's building up that trust. Like even with Tycho, if I made a really sudden move, I'd probably get chomped on. It would scare him. But I know with him how to approach him. If he's napping with his eyes wide open, if I approach too slow, he won't notice me coming in. And when he does, I'll probably get bit because suddenly there's a hand in front of him that he didn't anticipate. He's good at sleeping with his eyes open, by the way. But I just, when I approach, approach the way I normally would, just, not super fast, not super slow, but just be consistent. And he's going to be pretty happy with that because he knows what to expect. He knows what's going to happen. That's good, Max. Thank you for quieting down. What a good bird. But yeah, so we've been hanging out today for a bit. We've talked a lot about feathers. We've talked a lot about adopting birds, and I think that that's always something that's really good. So absolutely, if you're thinking about adding a bird to your flock or adopting your first bird, think about going to a rescue. Think about giving a home to a bird who really, really needs one. Oh yeah, and Connie's got a great point. She says, if I approach Vasco without him knowing, he's gonna get scared too, but I'm used to talking to him all the time. Absolutely, 'cause Connie, Vasco, he doesn't see, but he hears. And he'll hear you walk up, but when you talk to him, he knows what's going on. I talk to the flock. I talk to the flock all the time. I walk into the room and I treat them just like a toddler. Hey Max, hi Tycho, how's it going? If I'm doing something for Tycho, I talk about what I'm doing. Rather than just physically offering a scritch, I have body language I use for that, but I'll also give an audio clue and I'll ask him. But Tycho knows that I'm talking to him, and that really builds that relationship. He knows that he's part of it. I used to feel super self-conscious if I went for a walk with Max because I'm used to talking to Max and it felt like I was talking to myself, because people with dogs don't talk to their dog really, except maybe issue a few commands. But I'll actually have a conversation with Max just as I would with a toddler. And, he pays attention. He picks up words and phrases and he starts to recognize them, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Max understands a lot of phrases. He doesn't speak super clearly, but when you listen, when he's asking for an apple, that word apple, it's usually a phrase, because I don't just walk up and show him something and say apple. I'll say, do you want an apple? Want an apple? I might drop off the do you and I'll say want an apple. And then he looks at me and he says, want an apple. Now it's not going to be nearly as clear, but he understands that phrase relates to that tasty fruit he's going to get. Oh, dance. You're going to tell secrets, Tycho? Tycho, when he was younger, I was trying to teach him some tricks. He's pretty smart, and I was trying to teach him, say, I want an apple. I want a cracker. I want a grape. I want lettuce. I want a pea. Whatever it might be. And Tycho's pretty smart. And what I would do is I would actually reward the behavior that led towards it. So what I ended up doing is I trained Tycho that all Tycho has to say is, I want. He's not great with T's, so it's an I want. And he wants whatever I'm holding, whatever I'm offering to him. He clearly wants it. And why would he bother with those extra words when we both clearly understand what he wants? So he'll actually ask for things just by saying, I want. And usually he waits until I have it in the hands so he can specify that, yes, he does want that. So pretty cool. Yeah. I'm soft. You got a hi? A hi for people? Oh, you're just going to look super sweet. Tell you what, because we've been talking about apples, I'll get you one after the stream. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, Tycho's super soft. He's super quiet. But flockers, we've been on for a while. We had a super long chat with Max. We had a long chat with Tycho. I think it's been good. We've told some stories. And oh, Connie, I love that. You have to tell Vasco when you're going to do some groceries, just say go shopping so he knows. Absolutely. Tico, actually, something I started long ago, I would tell Tico when I would be home. And Tico would actually get mad at me if I gave him the wrong thing. He doesn't know how to read a clock, but he understands I'll be back shortly versus I'll be home tonight. It's, he sort of, it gives him an ability to sort of understand. Max has a very short attention span, and Max will forget 5 minutes later what you've told him, but Tico will actually understand. Like if I walk in, if I say I'll be home tonight, and then I walk in 10 minutes later, he really looks surprised, going, "What are you doing here? This isn't what you'd said." But I do try to tell him that, but he gets mad if I leave without telling him. So he just wants that reassurance. And can he read a clock? No, but he's got some appreciation for what a time range is. Max, does not have that same ability. Yeah, yeah. All right, flockers, I'm going to let everybody go. My phone is almost out of juice. We've got that close up of Tico, but it's been fun chatting with everybody, talking about the birds. We had some fun videos this week. Do me a favor, watch them, give them a thumbs up, give them a like. When you're watching videos to the end, it really helps me out. Your comments help, your likes help, your engagement helps, and that's how we grow the channel. Oh, big stretchy. That's super, super, Tico, super. All right, everybody, bok bok.